What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon and I am still waiting for my Seder, and today I want to dig a little bit deeper into The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. So right off the bat, I want to say be careful of spoilers basically for anything regarding Rick Riordan's books, especially The Trials of Apollo, because this is the third book in the series. If you want a spoiler-free review, I do have that video up and you can check that out right up here. So from the very first book, I've been really interested in what exactly is the journey that Apollo is going on, because Apollo, he was a great and powerful god, and we know from Rick Riordan's books that the gods aren't always very attentive. They're always kind of full of themselves, like everything is about them. They have like mortals do their bidding. They don't really care what becomes of these mortals because they're just so self-absorbed. So it was really interesting to have this like idea of a god being cast down from Olympus and basically becoming a mortal, becoming a demigod, and having to go on this quest on his own and having to like rely on his own skills and figure out things. So that was just really, really cool. I loved that idea. And it's interesting because what we're seeing is we're seeing Apollo learn what it means to be human, and we're seeing Apollo learn to like appreciate people who help him. He's learning not to forget people who help him. And I think we really do see that on display in this book in particular, especially with everything that goes on with Piper and Jason. Piper and Jason were together at the end of Heroes of Olympus. And what's interesting about them that we learn in this book is that once the chaos was over, Piper was able to take a couple of steps back and realize that she doesn't really know who she is, and she needed some time to figure that out, and she doesn't think that being with Jason was what she wanted. They're still really good friends, but she ends it because she needs space to figure out like where she's going and what's going on with her. And it's very interesting to see her grapple with that because she's trying to get more in touch with like her Cherokee heritage, but she's learning that like normally that's mostly passed through like the mother's line, but like her mother is like the Greek gods, and she doesn't really feel like that's her, like this beauty queen goddess and all that kind of stuff. So she's wanting to figure out who she is and what's going on. She wants to take a step back and just kind of like let this happen. And I really love that Rick Riordan like included all of that because it's just very real, and it added so many layers to Piper's character because she is still so confident and sure of herself, like the way she uses her charm speak, the way she is so fiercely protective of Jason, the way she's still comfortable being around Jason. It's just very mature, and I really think he handled it very, very well. Now, at the beginning of this book, it is said that tragedy would befall us, and what happens is Jason Grace does die. He sacrifices himself so that his friends could get away, and he kind of shows us what it truly means to be a hero. One definition of being a hero is always being willing to sacrifice yourself so that the others can get away and that the day could be saved like another time. And what's interesting is that Apollo specifically says that he hates that definition, and I think it's because it's forcing him to confront his own mortality. It's forcing him to realize that in this state he could die, and he isn't really willing to die. At least in the very beginning of the series, he hasn't been. But what's even more amazing is that in this book, he becomes completely willing to sacrifice himself so that his friends get away, to the point where he does stab himself. And it would have been a fatal wound, except he uses the arrow of Dordana, and the arrow of Dordana was just like, no, I'm not actually gonna stab you in the heart. And he was kind of relying on somebody being able to heal him, but the fact that he's able to get to that point is extremely interesting. And the fact then that he sees Jason actually follow through and sacrifice himself, and then he has to deal with the fallout of that, really weighs on Apollo. And I feel like he's finally starting to understand what it means to be a human and why exactly he is on this mission. Because he doesn't just learn like the meaning of heroism and like what it means to like confront your mortality from Jason dying, but we also know from Jason that he vowed in Heroes of Olympus to make it so that no god would ever be forgotten and no demigod would ever be forgotten. So he wants to build like all of these temples to all of the gods so that everybody can be honored and everybody can be remembered. And he charges that to Apollo. He says, like, if I don't make it, I want you to promise me that nobody will be forgotten. I want you to remember. And that is a really big deal for the way that Rick Riordan has set up his gods. They are so forgetful of their children. They're so forgetful of like other minor gods. They just don't care if it's not about them. And now Apollo is being charged to remember. The final lines of this book are, I am Apollo and I will remember. And it really hit me, and it was just really emotional. I feel like more so than any of the other books, any of the other characters that Rick Riordan has written, Apollo is going on such an amazing journey, and he's learning so much that I feel like by the end of this series, he's going to learn what it means to appreciate these demigods. He's going to learn what it means to be willing to sacrifice yourself, to confront your own mortality, to remember those who would help you. And I feel like he's going to impart that on the other gods, and we can finally start to see a change being made, because that's the whole point. The whole point is to like spread knowledge so that eventually it can get to one person who can make that change. These demigods have been like preaching all of this for years, and none of the gods have ever cared. But now Apollo is finally learning this lesson, and when he becomes a god again, he can finally be the voice that the other gods will listen to and can finally make a change. And I am so freaking excited to see where that's going to go. And this book, if you can't tell, it made me so emotional, and I loved it so much. We're finally getting into that darkness. We're finally getting into the meat of the plot and what's going on here. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next, and I am just unbelievably excited for the fourth book to come out. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!